who help over at, oh look, I was a little bit early on Facebook, so let's go through that again. Morning. It's Andrew Hawks here. You can call me Doc Drew. And if you want to find out more about what I do, who I help, and what I'm all about, then you can head over to drewsdaily.com. So today, obviously, I'm just continuing on with I've got coffee. And to be fair, it's 7-Eleven coffee, so it might not be that good. But we moved into a place last night that we don't really like, so it didn't really suit our purposes, and it stinks, to be fair. So we're moving on today, so we haven't unpacked anything. Cheers. So I'm going to carry on with our education around cryptocurrency. And yesterday we touched really just briefly on wallets. I think we had Mitchie. He said to me, he goes, well, what's the best wallet for Bitcoin and XRP? And to me, one of the best wallets out there is obviously Exodus. That's if you want a hot wallet that you still control the keys to. But a cold wallet, again, I went through them yesterday, Trezor, Ledger. I have all three of what I'm talking about, Ledger, Trezor, and a Keystone. Now, to be fair, on the Keystone, I'm still trying to learn how it all works. But I've been told very, very good things about it. Now, obviously, you want to protect yourself as best you can. And there's an old saying, how old can it be, really? I mean, the crypto space is, 16 years old now? Bitcoin launched in 2009. But the saying around the traps, and I guess is relative as the space is, it is old. And that is, if you don't control the keys, you don't control the coins. Now, we had an instance a couple of years ago where the likes of old Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX closed, right? Well, actually, they didn't close. They got breached to the tunes of billions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars. A lot of people got hurt in that scenario. Now, I actually know someone personally who was affected by that, and they had, at the time, a very good portion of Bitcoin, and of the price that Bitcoin was then versus what it is now, it'd be worth a lot more. Like, I think Bitcoin's probably minimum 10x'd since that time. Now, the good news is they'll get something of that back, because there's, they've gone through the process, and there's been a bit of a receivership thing, and they've recovered some of the funds, but it's nowhere near what it was. So he'll get the value of what it was at the time that it was breached, but not the amount of Bitcoin that he would have had. So it's a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow, because, he did all the right things other than leaving his funds on a centralized exchange, did all the right things, made all the right decisions, and is not necessarily getting the benefit from it. So unfortunately, he is a little bit, he's like, I'm not sure about this crypto space. It's like, well, brother, this is where the future is going. So if you don't get on board with it, then you're going to miss out. So it's early here. It's like it's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm the only one awake because I've just come back from my walk. So what I do is get up and go. And I actually said last night to Sarah, hey, I'm going to have a sleep in tomorrow. That didn't. I got up at normal time and went, oh, well, if I don't do it now, it'll just be harder to do it the day. So there's a lesson in that. Eat the frog. Do it first. Do it early. Hey, and again, if you want to find out more about who I am, what I do, who I help, then you can head over to drewsdaily.com. There are some goodies over there that people can dive into. The Sovereign Wealth Kit. There's a DeFi checklist on what you can do for yourself on how to get ahead or get out of the system, so to speak. So he's a really, really good bugger. He's a switched on guy, really, really switched on dude. But he's got a sour taste in his mouth because of what happened with that. And sadly, many, many people do. But as I said yesterday, if you tuned into that, then you'll know. If you didn't, then you can go back and watch it. We're going to blockchain. The whole world is going to blockchain. Everything will happen on a blockchain. And that's a good thing, because it's transparent. Transparent in the fact that you can see how every dollar is spent. So government should be on blockchain. And realistically, the only reason they're creating regulation and everything around it is because they want you not really to know what they're doing. But the thing is, once it's on blockchain, and once it's public, and you know the wallet and what wallet is for, and this is the way government should be working, is like for the people. If they're working for the people, it's how they should be working. And again, guys, everything I say in here is my opinion. I don't profess to be an expert. I'm just a very, very keen enthusiast, and I now travel the world based on the knowledge that I've amassed through this space and through other spaces, and just learning and teaching other people to do the same. So the way it should work with government is that they should be, everything should be on the blockchain, and everybody should know what the public wallet address is for each specific department. So they can literally go through and have a look and go, okay, this is what they're spending money on. Is that what we voted for? In most cases, you'll find it's not. Now, the dragging of the feet probably, or the manipulation of the blockchain system, is moreover so that they can still do their shady backroom deals. Because let's be honest, that's exactly what they do. So yes, government should be on blockchain. Everything's going to be on blockchain anyway. Now, the rush to move forward, the rush to implement CBDCs and more systems of control is just that. It's about control. Now, there was a movie coming out, more like a documentary in 1999 called The Matrix. And if you look at it, that's really about where we're moving into right now. We've got AI, obviously. I can't remember who said it. Sam Altman might have said that by 2037, people are going to be hiding from AI. Right now, everybody's using it like it's their best friend. I mean, I use it. I think it's a useful tool. It is a useful tool. Obviously, it can't do that, or it can, but realistically, this is me, right? Warts and all. It's not polished. It's not meant to be polished. It's just meant to be here with you, having some fun. So your own wallets are the key. So if you have, there's those so's again, if you have your money sitting on an exchange, please remove it. Unless, of course, you're trading. But don't have your full wealth, your full crypto portfolio. Don't leave it on an exchange. It's just not safe. There's no security for you. If the exchange goes tits up, if it goes bankrupt, and that's happened before too, if it gets breached, that's happened plenty of times. I was early on in my crypto journey. I was involved with an exchange in New Zealand called Cryptopia.co.nz, and I had probably what would now in Bitcoin would be worth a couple of $1,000. It wasn't much. It was just dabbling, but I lost access because it got breached. It lost. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember. There has been a process there where people have been able to get some of their funds back, which has been nice. But for the life of me, I couldn't remember all of the tokens that I had on there because I was new to crypto. I didn't have it written down. So that's another good tip. Write that shit down. Have a copy of something somewhere. Have a spreadsheet of what the assets you've got on one exchanges. It's not too hard to do. You can do it inside of Google Sheets. Very, very simple. Set it up. But I couldn't ever get back into that. So what that taught me was, if it's on a centralized exchange, it's not safe for me. It's good for them. Great, looks great on their balance books, but it's also one of the reasons why a lot of central exchanges don't necessarily want you moving it to your own wallet. I won't mention any specific names, but there's a few that come straight to the top of my head that I've had discussions with over the years, let's say. There's some really good ones out there too that are very, very helpful. But for the most part, they're controlled also by, particularly in Australia, by AUSTRAC, which is they're an arm of ASIC, which is the Australian Investment and Securities Commission, ASIC. Anyway, Australia's Securities Investment Commission. I think that's what it stands for. ASIC, right? To me, they're the bad guys. They're there to protect everyone because we haven't been able to protect ourselves, according to them. We don't know what to do. We cede our responsibility every single day in everything that we do. It's like, I remember I was coming back from, I'll tell you the full story. Well, I won't tell you the full story. I'll give you the highlights. I was coming back from Las Vegas in 2020, end of 2020, right around that fun time that we had in life. And I got into customs here in Australia. It was in Sydney. I flew through Sydney and went into quarantine. Totally against my consent. It was against my will. I didn't consent to going into it. I knew who I was, knew who I am. And I also knew that the health orders that were drawn up, and I'm not trying to get into the yays and nays of whether this was right or wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm just telling you what happened. But the health orders that have been written up, if you look to the letter of the law, then they have to be presented to an individual. They have to be issued to an individual. They can't just be a blanket issuing. And sadly, that's what happened. They're like, nope, this covers everyone. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. So I absolutely went into quarantine under duress. Long story short, I did my 14 days. I didn't let them shove anything up my nose. I would have happily done a throat swab, but that wasn't good enough apparently. So they said I had to stay another 10 days because, I hadn't been tested, I hadn't been cleared. Well, if the incubation period of the so-called thing is 7 days, then I would have been sick, and I wasn't. Anyway, long story. I ended up in the cells overnight. And there was a whole debacle that went on with that. But that was all about control. 100% all about control. So if you are at the point where, you're getting into crypto or you're in crypto and you've got money in your exchange, then you need to look at ways of getting it off. Why would you want to get into crypto if you're not there already? Well, there's a number of reasons. It's pretty easy to move around. It is absolutely transparent, but it's also gives you back some autonomy. Yes, you can see what every transaction is, but only if they know your wallet. And that's another reason why not to be on a centralized exchange, because on a centralized exchange, of course, obviously, you have to KYC. You have to fill out that know your customer stuff. They want to know where you are. They want to know who you are, where you live, when you had your last dump. That's not quite true, but you get the point. It's very intrusive. Realistically, all you're doing is moving funds. Now, where I was going before with that money on an exchange, it's the same with money in a bank. You are an unsecured creditor. And if that goes tits up, you're the last to get paid. It's the same in the banks. If the bank goes tits up, you're the last to get paid. You're the last to get your money. And people will tell you, and again, this isn't financial advice. This is just helping people for education and maybe providing a little bit of entertainment. And again, if you want to find out more about who I am, what I do, and who I help, then you can find that out over at drewsdaily.com. So you're an unsecured creditor, even at the banks. And people will tell you, oh yeah, but there's the bank guarantee. So if you're insured to a certain amount in your bank account, this is true. I have to absolutely agree it is. Unfortunately, that bank guarantee is not necessarily worth the paper it's written on these days. Now, it'll vary country by country, and you'll be able to verify this or look at this yourself. Do your own research. I always implore people to do your own research. But it changes country to country. And in 2018, here in Australia, and similarly in New Zealand, US as well, they introduced what was referred to as the bail-in laws. Now, I'll come back to that in a second. Basically, what the bank guarantee is, if the bank goes to the government and says, we are in trouble, we're in the shit, we need some help, we need some assistance, then the government may bail them out. And then you get your insurance kicks in. But the bank first has to go to the government and say, we're in trouble, we need some help. And then your banker's guarantee will kick in to whatever amount it's insured. I think it's in Australia, I think it's up to 200,000. Anything above that, you won't get back. That all changed in 2018 with the advent of those laws, with that legislation, the bail-in legislation. Again, it was called something different, but it was referred to as that because it's essentially what it is. And it means that the banks, if they get themselves in the shit, they don't have to go to the government anymore. They can claim it from your bank account. Anything over and above, over $200,000, they can go. You might go, oh, if I had $200,000 in the bank, that'd be awesome. Yeah, but there's people sitting there with millions and millions, hundreds of millions, right? It gets taken. The bank can use it to bail themselves out. So that's why it's called bail-in, because they're not going to the government now. They're just taking it out of people's hard-earned bank accounts with an indefinite time frame of when they have to pay it back. So they don't have to pay it back. There's no fixed time that they must have it paid back by. They can just hold on to it indefinitely. Well, that to me doesn't seem very safe either. It's almost safer putting it under your mattress. And you're not going to get 20 questions when you're going into the banks. Now, Banks are banks. I don't particularly like banks. I don't particularly like the banking system, but at the same time, it has its pros. It has its uses, and for a lot of people, it's the only way they can see. But there is obviously a new technology. We're talking about blockchain, and we're talking about crypto and cake today. I haven't got cake, but you can have your cake and eat it too. Let's have another bit of coffee. Actually, that's not bad. That's considering it's 7-Eleven coffee. It's not bad. Cheap coffee. It's better than Starbucks. Yeah, I said it. Starbucks, worst coffee in the world. Anyway, I digress. So it's a landscape that's changing very, very quickly. It is something that you shouldn't be afraid of. It's something that you should start to embrace and learn more and more about. And that's why I show up. That's why I'm here, is because I want to educate people more on the benefits of the space. And I gave some yesterday. I talked about liquidity pools again. It's not financial advice, it's just something that I'm doing, something that I'm learning, something that I'm sharing. And I used to have and if you go to my Facebook page not my profile, my page on Facebook, you'll see it says learn, act, empower. And I heard somebody say the other day, it was like, oh, and somebody who didn't know me, and they said it from the platform, and they said, we learn and then we apply and then we teach. Well, is that not just learn, act, empower, but in a different thing? It's the same thing. So we learn about something, we act upon it, and we help ourselves, and then we teach others and help them too. So that's where I'm at. And again, if you want to know more about who I am, what I do, who I help, how it all works, then you can find out more over at drewsdaily.com. We're also there will be replays of these videos that you can get access to and find out what nuggets have been said throughout the day. But ultimately, now is the time. I said yesterday, the net is getting smaller. The door is closing. Some say rapidly. It's getting faster and faster when that door closes. The old banking system is dying. And realistically, in this day and age now, you don't need a bank account to live, to survive. And in fact, if you're smart, you can earn more through the DeFi and have some anonymity about you than you ever can in the banking system. Yep, property's going to be on blockchain. Yep, everything's going to be tokenized, so you'll be able to get hold of it and all that sort of stuff. Oh, there we go. Just having a tootie here, just playing, moving some stuff around. So, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Now, while I was out on my walk this morning, I was listening to a podcast, and I was, as I often do, and I was just listening to different things, how people show up and how people do things. Now, one surefire way to fail at everything in life is just not to try. And sure, maybe you've dipped your toes in the crypto space before and go, nope, it's not for me. I'm sorry to tell you it's coming. So you have to take your head out of the sand and go, you know what? I need to learn something about this. The reason we are in an oppressed state, and I say that, I don't say it tongue in cheek, I say it knowing what the world is like. Yes, we have freedoms, but we're really inside a digital cage. We can go to the shop. We can drive down the road at the moment. Now, all of that may change when CBDCs come in, because as I said yesterday, it's a controllable currency. It's something that if they decide, and China is a very good example of this, nothing against China, but China is a very good example of this with their social credit system. If you're seeing jaywalking, for example, and they have cameras everywhere, but if you're seeing jaywalking, facial recognition picks you up, you can get locked out of different stores. Ivan, how you doing, brother? Hope you're well, man. Hope you're well. Yeah, so we that cage is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and right now, the world is being set up for 15-minute cities where everything will be geocached. And I witnessed this. I funny story. I was in Dubai for an event in April of last year, and I thought it was smart. I was there on a shoestring budget. And see, this is an entrepreneur's life, the ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're right at the top of the wave, and sometimes you're at the bottom about to get crushed. And that's okay too, because that's all part of learning. It's all part of the process. It's enjoyable. You look back at it and go, yeah, without that, I couldn't have done this. So I was in Dubai and I was absolutely on a shoestring, and the event was on the Palm, and it was probably about a $40 Uber ride, and I was staying by myself. I wasn't with a whole group of people, so so I was like, well, what's the cheapest way I can get out there? It's too hot to walk, so I'm not going to walk out to the Palm. If it's a 40-minute Uber ride, $40 Uber ride. You can imagine how much it's how far it is. It's like scooter would be cheaper. Scooter's great. This ties into the whole 15-minute city thing. Scooter would be great. So I got myself a scooter and I was on my way, and I'd come onto the entrance of the Palm, and there's a downhill ramp, and I was coming down that, and then all of a sudden the scooter just lost power. And when I say scooter, I'm talking about one of the Lime scooters type thing, battery operated, and it lost power. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with the scooter? It was going really well, and now all of a sudden it's not. I'm like, pulling on the trigger to try and get it to go. Nothing. And I look down at my phone, and it's flashing red. I'm like, what the hell? And it turns out that they're geocached. So they've got a digital fence literally around where you can and cannot ride these scooters, and apparently you can't ride them on the Palm. So I was about halfway. I was about halfway to where I needed to be, and I pulled up. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. I'll just end the ride here. Do it. End ride. No, it wouldn't let me end the ride because I was outside of the geocached area. I wasn't allowed to leave the scooter there. So I had to push it back up the hill. I couldn't even ride it back up the hill. I had to push it back up the hill. Had to push it back. My wife's just woken up. I probably woke her up. Had to push it back up the hill. And then down the other side of another one. So I had to backtrack probably 700-800 meters. so I lost a bit of time. Turned it off, put my bag on. I actually already had my bag on, but then carried on to the venue. And by the time I got to the venue, I was wringing wet. And the speaker whose event it was, he looked at me and he said, "What the hell happened to you?" And I said, "Bro, I did whatever it took to get here. That's what happened to me." And it was the best response, because we talk about doing whatever it takes. Now, sure, crypto might be scary for a lot of people. Absolutely it is. And it's, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not diligent in what you're doing, it's very, very easy to, again, as I said it yesterday, put your 12-word seed phrase into the wrong place and give it away and cede your sovereignty. And I helped someone yesterday. And sadly, it's the generally the older generation that have the issues, because they're not as tech savvy and they are a little trusting in that sense. So you do have to be careful, but at the same time, if you've done it right and if you've educated yourself along the way, then it's going to be much, much easier for you. And again, if you want to find out more about who I am, what I do, who I help, then head on over to drewsdaily.com. But just give you a little bit more about my story. I said I'd share it yesterday, and I'll probably share, you get to know me a bit better, and you will over the next few days, however long this takes. But I joined the Air Force at 17, Royal New Zealand Air Force. I said yesterday I ran away and joined the circus. Well, in reality, it was the Royal New Zealand Air Force. And I joined as a fitter, as an auto mechanic. And I still have that trade today. But I don't work as a mechanic, and I haven't done for almost 20 years. For almost 20 years. In fact, it's 20 years ago that I got out. 2005 was the year I left the military after 11 years and 11 months. Almost 2 years. 10 years, 10 months. Anyway, I left after that time, but I did 5 tours of duty overseas peacekeeping. I was in Solomons, I was in East Timor 3 times, and I was in a little island called Bougainville. So while I was in the military, I never really fit in. And maybe you can relate to being in a space where you're like, I love the people, I love the work, I love what I'm doing, but just something feels off. Well, that's kind of where I was. And I toyed with the idea. In fact, I remastered, which is changing of trade. So I went from being a mechanic, and I wanted to be a PTI, a physical training instructor. And I did my selection. I passed my selection with flying colors. Well, certainly aspects of it. I wasn't the most sporty person in the world, but hey, you just had to be fit, right? Well, at least that's what I thought. You also had to be quite smart. Turns out I'm dyslexic, so wasn't quite smart enough. But that turned out to be a superpower for me, because I guess if I'd passed my PDI course, I'd probably still be in the Air Force and I wouldn't be living the life that I am now. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Incredibly thankful. And of course, I'm living the life I am now due to getting involved with blockchain and learning a thing or two about it over the last 10 years. Now, I've got another confession to make. When I first got into blockchain, it was with this shitcoin. I knew the guy, one of the guys that had created it. And it turned out to be this whole thing about it. But anyway, I thought there was Bitcoin and this coin, this one other coin. That's how green I was. And this was late in the piece. This was a good 6-7 years after Bitcoin had launched. So by now there's thousands of cryptocurrencies in the market. But I thought there was Bitcoin and this one other shitcoin. I'm not even going to say the name of it. It's irrelevant. The story is, well, when I jumped onto CoinMarketCap, I saw that there was all these other coins. I was like, holy shit. Wow. Maybe all these coins have got the same sort of scope as Bitcoin. And maybe many people gone through the same thing. I don't know. But I found this one little coin called Digicoin. It's like, man, this is cheap as. I can, for 100 of these, I can get 1 million. For $100, I can get 1 million tokens or whatever it was worth at the time. I bought them. And what do you know? It actually went up. It doubled itself in the first week. And I was broke. I was broke at the time. I had no money. I was working week to week. And when I'd finally decided that I needed to get back into the workforce, even though it killed me, back into the workforce to generate some cash flow, just so we could get some stability. And I bought this Digicoin. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you're not. It's still there, still listed on the exchange. I still have a little bit of it for nostalgia. And it doubled, and I was like, oh shit, I can sell $100 worth, get my money back out of it, and I've still got some, and it's going to go further. Oh yeah, I nailed this game. And then I bought another one. I can't even remember what the next one was, but it did the same thing. It's like, yeah, it must have been where we were in the cycle. And I was like, yeah, all right, I've got this game down locked. No worries, we're good. Anyway, that's not the way to go into crypto. You want to do some diligence about it. You want to find out about it. But first of all, you want to research your wallet. So the first thing you want to do is decide what sort of wallet you want to get. Now, I'll say it again. If you don't control the keys, you don't control the coins. So you want, obviously, a wallet that you have to generate, or that will generate, a 12-word or 24-word seed phrase. Now, what is 12-word and 24-word? Well, 12-word is 126-bit encryption. Sorry, 132-bit, 126-bit encryption. And 24-word is 252-bit encryption. So obviously just a high level of security. What most people don't understand about the mnemonic seed phrase, whether it's 12, 24, it doesn't matter, is it's the first 4 letters of the word that count. Now, you can try this for yourself. You could go to iancoleman.io, which is a private key generator. So it'll generate private keys based on your mnemonic seed phrase. Now, of course, best practice would suggest that you disconnect. If you're doing this with a real 12-word seed phrase, disconnect from the internet where you're doing it. But go there and have a look. And there's a say you want a 12-word, not a 15-word, because it'll ask you, it'll say, oh, how many words? You go 12 words. And then the next one is, there's a box where you can start putting your words in. If you just start typing random words, it will tell you very quickly whether that's actually part of a chain or a mnemonic phrase at all. So you can't cheat it. It's pretty good. So your private key, obviously you can generate it also from your wallet once you've opened it. Like Exodus, for example, it will give you a 12-word seed phrase, and you'll need to write that down. As I said yesterday, write it down multiple places, put it on multiple safe places. Now, there's also a thing called sharding. Sharding, not sharting. That's something completely different. We don't want to go there. Although if you have too much coffee, you might end up sharting. Oh, I digress. So what you want to do is, if you are going to shard your seed phrases, you want to put together your first 8 words, your second 8 words, and then your third 8 words. And you might go, well, if there's only 12, how does that work? Well, okay, so you put 8 words, a set of your first 4 and your second 4 together. Then you put a set of your second 4 and your third 4 together. And then you put a set of your first 4 and your last 4 together. And you store them in different places. So that means if any one of those gets found, they can't break into your wallet because they've only got a portion of your seed phrase. They don't have all of it. You've got to go to the 2 locations to get 2 to put together for any one of them to work, for it to work, which works fine. Hey, Nanny Prep, how you doing? Long times. I hope you're well. It's been ages. We should catch up, actually. We should catch up. Got something really epic to share with you. And I know you'd love it. So you want to do that with your seed phrases. You want to do it with your seed phrases. You also want to store it somewhere safe. A safety deposit box is a good place. A safe is a good place. But what you have to be wary about in a safe is if you've just got it written down on paper, then you need to make sure that it's fireproof and waterproof. And the same thing really for a safety deposit box. So there are things you can get called crypto steels, which are literally steel vaults. Essentially, they're a credit card size, and you open it up and it's all steel, and it's etched. So you literally can put your seed phrase in one of these steels, and you can shard it with, if you have, I think each steel you can put, they hold up to a 24-word seed phrase, so 12 words on one side and 12 words on the other. So if it's a 12-word seed phrase, then you can use three of them to shard your wallet and put them in different places, and it's safe. So that's a good safety tip that you can use for starting into your wallet. Goal equals Richie. Hey, Bisnay, how you doing? Hey guys, now if you're new here, if you haven't seen me before, if you want to find out more about who I am, what I do, who I help, then you want to go over to drewsdaily.com. There's a couple of worksheets over there that you can grab right now for free. That will help you on your sovereign wealth journey. Not to be confused with a sovereign journey, and that's slightly different. But you want to be looking at your wallets. And the first thing you want to do is secure that seed phrase as best you can, because that is literally the keys to your kingdom. So find a good wallet. Exodus is a good one. If you want browser-based wallets, then Rabby is a good one. MetaMask is a very common one. It's a EVM, so it's a Ethereum, basically Ethereum compatible chain wallet. So any chain that is compatible with Ethereum, I uses the same wallet address, will also work inside of MetaMask, but they do have Rabby support in there now as well, Solana support in there now as well, which is good. But they're just a couple. Here's something that happened, and this is why a few people are having issues inside of MetaMask right now. There was a breach around November last year that targeted Chrome-based extensions, and specifically crypto-based Chrome extensions. There was about 20 of them that were compromised. 20 of those extensions were compromised, and it was Microsoft found the virus. Microsoft might have released the virus. Who knows? I spoke about it yesterday, a Trojan, and it was called Stalachy-Rat in November. Now, anyone on a PC, particularly on a Chrome browser or Chromium-based, so that's Brave, it's Chrome, it's Edge, they have the risk, if they don't have good enough security, which Stalachy-Rat is very, very hard to detect. If they don't have the right security, then as soon as they install that wallet and output their 12-word seed phrase, they're compromised straight away, because that Trojan virus has taken that 12-word seed phrase, and all they need to do, they don't need to access to your computer at all. All they need to do is then go over, download a browser, put a wallet on it, and put in your seed phrase. Bang, they've now got access to it. And the same can be true. You can import your Exodus wallet, the Ethereum side of it, into the likes of MetaMask. All you need is that private key. Now, of course, as soon as you do that, if that wallet has been compromised in any way, then they now have access to that too. So for me, the safest thing to do is to use Firefox. This is me. This is what I do. It's quite a secure browser. It's one that I've used for years and years and years. And of course, it's written in different code than Chrome and the Chromium-based browsers. So it has a different extension. So that's what I do. I use Firefox, and I use the MetaMask extension. But go one step further than that. If you're if you're intent on building your wealth, if you're intent on really making a go of it inside of the crypto space, then you need to have a cold wallet. And the primary one I use at the moment, I've already said this, I've already gone through it a couple of times on this call and on yesterday, is I use Ledger. Now, there's a thing that Ledger run, and I mentioned this yesterday about a dude that tried to scam me through it, and it's called Ledger Support, where, of course, people do forget their seed phrase. I've had people who have had product in their wallet that they've never been able to access again because they couldn't remember their seed phrase and they deleted the wallet off their browser. Seed phrase so important, and the same for your cold wallets as well. So Ledger Support, they offer a service where you can leave your 12-word seed phrase with them, but then that leaves you open for any breaches. And I said yesterday, and I gave the wrong figure. It's about 16 billion leaks of passwords just last week or the week before. So you've got a choice on what you do with that. If you think you've been leaked, there's a site, I can't remember the name of it. My buddy showed me yesterday, and I logged in, and sure enough, I've got a couple of breaches that I need to fix and look at. So I will go through and do that diligently. But you're in control. You're in control. So that means you have to be responsible. No one can come and save you. If you send something on the blockchain, it's sent. And look, I still make mistakes. You want to be sure that you are awake. About 7 weeks ago, I was in Bali, and I woke up and I was withdrawing some funds, and it was around 2,400 USDT. And I woke up and I was like, oh, cool. I was a little bit groggy. I wasn't anywhere near in the shape that I'm in now. I wasn't as fit as I am. I wasn't as on the ball as I am. And I got up and all I could think of was like, I need to get that there so that we can pay that. So I withdrew 2,400 USDT. Now, I went through, wallet address, everything perfect. Bang, sent. And I was withdrawing it through one of the exchanges, one of the centralized exchanges, because that's the only way I can get it back to a bank account. And yes, again, I use both sides of the coin. I needed it in a bank account. I couldn't just put it on a card. So I withdrew it. And it usually takes, 5 minutes to show up on the exchange, just with all the checks and everything they have to do. And I went to the exchange, and like 10 minutes later, I come in and was like, shit, it's still not there. Where is it? Went back to my wallet, looked at it, looked at the transaction ID, clicked on the transaction ID. It's like, yeah, there it is on the Explorer. It's right there. It's no problem. It's on the Explorer. I can see it on the transaction ID. And then it dawned on me. It's like, oh, you dick. Yes, the wallet address was the same because it was an Ethereum compatible wallet, but it wasn't on the Ethereum chain. And the exchange that I sent it to didn't have the chain that I'd sent it to. So it's still sitting there on the chain. I can see it. I'll still go and check. Yep, that $2,500 is still sitting there on the blockchain, but I can't access it until the exchange that I withdrew it to decide that they want to access that chain, that particular chain. Now, will it happen? It might. I hope that it will. But that's a very easy mistake for people to make. So you've got to be very clear about where you're sending it and how you're sending it and what chain that you're sending it on. The wallet address might look identical, but the chain might be different. The protocols might be different. So you've got to be careful around that. So set up your wallet, get your 12-word seed phrase, put it in a very secure place. You're going to want, I would suggest, and again, this isn't financial advice, this is just good practice. I would suggest having multiple wallets. Inside of the likes of Ledger, the likes of Trezor specifically, absolutely, Keystone, absolutely, you can have multiple accounts. So inside of those multiple accounts, it means that you can have one that could be a dummy account that has an amount of money in it, just in case you're ever going through a border or something like that, and they say, we want to see what your holdings are. Okay, here's my holdings. Because you don't ever... Hey, Dion Jensen, how you doing, brother? We do need to run this course ASAP, bro. You and I should have a chat in this next week, bro. I'm in the space. It's time. It's time. Excuse me. So, you want that so that you can protect your wealth, because it's your wealth and it's nobody's business what you hold and where you hold it. It's yours. That's one of the reasons why, hey, I'm telling people, get out of the banking system. Banks will hate me for it. I might even get in trouble for it. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. I know that I'm not a person. Now, that's a whole other story, and it's a whole other rabbit hole that we're not going to go down on these calls. But just know. So if you want to know more about who I am, what I do, who I help, you can go over to drewsdaily.com and find out more there. Again, there's a couple of worksheets there. There's a Sovereign Wealth Pack. There's a DeFi checklist. Depending on which page you land on, they're both there. If you land on one and not the other, and you want the other, just reach out to me, flick me an email, and I'll get you the other one as well. Got a good team of people behind us that help make sure all of these things are there, all of these things are accurate. Critical, oh bro, Dion, yeah, absolutely. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dion Jensen's a bit of a legend. He runs the Lion Academy in Palmerston North in New Zealand. In fact, it's a global company. Does a lot of good in the community. But what he just said, critical info now, is absolutely right. There's never been a more decisive time in history. I said yesterday about the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. We're there, and it started 5 years ago. It started at the start of COVID, whatever you want to call it, the pandemic, scamdemic, don't care. Call it whatever works for you. But it started then. In fact, it started long before then, but we see the biggest part of the transfer happening now. And it's not too late for you to get a portion of it. What you do now in the next 18 months will decide your fate for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, depending on how old you are. Now, remember, you don't have to know everything to get started. You just have to get started. You have to have a willingness. And I heard something on the podcast that I was listening to this morning, and it just made sense. You know, so many people sell the dream. They go, oh, you know, I'm living this life and I'm working 2 hours a day and that's good. It's true. It can happen. But not until you've actually done the work. Not until you've done the mahi. It just doesn't. You have to be there. You have to show up and you have to do the grind for a time. I could tell you that I only work 2-3 hours a day. And while this is true, my core work is only 2-3 hours a day. I'm still working 10, 12, 18 hours a day sometimes. Because work for me blends in with my life. There's a harmony there. It's not a balance. Balance is a myth. That's bullshit. There's a harmony. And it's curated harmony. Because if I need to go, like this morning, I've got a coffee. I've got a breakfast meeting this morning after I drop my boy off at work. And then I'm going, because we're leaving the country again, I'm going to get my ears done because I've got swimmer's ear. I've got a narrowing of this ear canal and this one from swimming in cold water for years and years and years. So I'm going to get those sorted so that I can hear while I'm overseas, because that's important to be able to hear as well. If there's a car or a bus coming up the road and you don't hear it, and poof, it's done. You're over. Anyway, I digress. It's time. You have to do the grind. If you want the freedom, I speak to many people in the line of work that I'm in that all want something more. They all want freedom. They all want to do something, or they all want something. Not all of them are prepared to do something to get it. Now, it might be a season of your life where you have to pull the lead out and do some work. But I have a question for you on that, because people go, oh, yeah, but you know, what if it doesn't work? Fuck that. What if it does? Seriously, what if it does? How different would your life be? If it doesn't work, you're going to be in the same place you are right now. Broke. Who cares? That didn't work. You try on the next one. You do the next thing. That's how life works. Fail faster, fail forward. But be prepared. If you want the things, that all these people, successful people, what you deem to be successful people have, then you have to be prepared to do the mahi, to do the work. And it might be that maybe you are working a job and you're in 9 to 5. Maybe for construction workers that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's from 6:30 in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they're too knackered to go out and do anything, too knackered to do their fitness, too knackered. The question becomes, are you driven enough to get through that, to go through the inertia and to just push on? You have to do the work. And it might just be a season. What would happen if you took the next 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and just knuckled down and did what needed to be done to have the results that you think you want, wouldn't that be better than spending 40 years working for someone else, waiting, hoping to retire with a little bit of money? I can tell you, I know the difference, and I wouldn't know which one I want. Yeah, Matt Dion said it, a map with a process and a diagram. And a training program online, it's all a done deal. There you go. We're talking about doing business now. But guys, if you want to know more about what I'm doing, who I am, who I help, there's not much of my history on that page, but it's not hard to find out. I'm a very open book, very, very open book. I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, even if it hurts me, and often it does. But the fact is, you can find out more at drewsdaily.com. So I'm here. This coffee is now cold-ish. It's still quite nice though. It actually black coffee gets better as it gets colder, believe it or not. Well, it's what I've found anyway. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I'm going to wind it up a little bit early this morning, just because we've got a whole heap of stuff to do, and I'm going to get my boy to work very, very soon. But again, my name's Andrew Hawks. You can call me Doc Drew. You can follow me on my socials if you like over at Andrew Hawks online at on the Instagram and on TikTok. If you look up hashtag Doc Drew, you'll find me there as well. But Andrew Hawks online is my handle on TikTok. And of course, I'd love to hear from you. I'm one of the founders of the Legacy Builders University. We literally show people how to create systems and leverage so that they can live a life by design. But it doesn't happen by osmosis. It happens through a little bit of hard graft to start with. You hard graft, and then you leverage the systems that are put in place to make it much, much easier for you in the future. But I'm going to be back tomorrow talking more about crypto, probably have another coffee. It won't be cake. But what the point of calling it coffee and cake today, or cake and coffee and cake, was that, no, coffee and cake and crypto and cake, I don't know, one of the two, is that you can have your cake and eat it too if you set yourself up right in the DeFi space. It's not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced and learned. And you can learn everything that you need. Every skill that you need for cryptocurrency is a learned skill. None of it is ingrained. None of it is natural. Even for the younger generation who are native to digital, they've still got to learn something. Yeah, sure, for some people it'll come easier. But if you're committed, if you are wanting something different, there is nothing that will stop you from hitting it. Anyway, that's been me, and I will be back tomorrow. Again, my name, Andrew Hawks. Call me Doc Drew. If you want to know more about what I do, who I am, who I help, then go on over to drewsdaily.com, and I look forward to talking to you very, very soon, maybe even in person. But until then, ka kite anō, which means I will see you again. He kōnei rā, and yeah, take care. Bye.